Hey, it's Doc from Springtail. Today we are going to do the assembly and installation of a Springtail Jeep JL rear door folding table / MOLLE panel. The tools that you will require today for the assembly part will be a 7mm socket and wrench, a 5/32 Allen wrench, which we do include in the package, but a T-handle will make your life a lot easier during the installation process. Also a Bic lighter and a sharp tool such as a pick to help draw the paracord through the holes. Later, during the installation process, we will need a 10mm wrench, a 10mm socket, a body panel removal tool will be helpful, although you can get the job done with a flathead screwdriver if you need to. You'll also need a drill with a 1/2" drill bit or a 13mm drill bit to drill the holes through the plastic panels. It's all pretty easy. Let's get straight to the assembly process. The first step in the process will be to put the stainless tab receiver for the clamp onto the back panel. So we're going to put in 6 4mm bolts. Knocked a bolt out, so I'll have to go get that in a minute. You want to be careful with these little 4mm bolts because they're a little bit on the weak side, so they're easy to strip. So tighten with care. I'll get this other one in just a minute. When you're done putting the clamp receivers on, the tabs, you should see that there's a Made in USA logo on this side, and then on this side will be the Springtail logo. So as you're facing the Jeep from the rear, on the left will be the Made in America, on the right will be the Springtail logo. Now we put the grid panel on the front of the rack, which basically place it there with the receivers through the holes. And then we're going to put in the shoulder bolts. To install the shoulder bolt, you'll need to put the nylon washer onto the shoulder bolt. And then remember, there's a bit of powder coat within this hole. We keep very tight tolerances for the hinge area so that the rack doesn't rattle when you're going off-road. So you just screw that in there and then get the side started and make sure you're kind of in towards the hole. Like I said, it's going to be a little bit hard to get in. I'll show you in just a second on the other side. Okay, now on the other side, we're going to also do the same thing where we slide our shoulder bolt into place, making sure that it's making contact with that hole. And what you want to do is you want to just give that a little bit of back and forth motion to get through the powder coat. Then we'll switch on this side. This side's not all the way in yet, and we repeat the process. And sometimes it takes a little bit of work. And then I've done this a few times on this rack, so it's pretty easy. The one thing I want you to remember is do not drill, do not take a file to the inside of that, because you'll ruin the clearances and the rack will rattle off-road. So just do it exactly the way I told you. It may take a little bit of work, but the end process or the end product will be very satisfactory. So now we're going to install the clamps. You want to make sure that the red is pointing up, like you're lifting your finger against it. You don't want to put it on upside down. And then we're going to put in our bolts, and then we tighten on the other side. And then we put the bolts on, or the nuts on the other side. Just like that. All right, we repeat the process on the other side. And just like that. All right. The next thing we'll do is we'll adjust the clamps to the desired tension to hold the table closed. And they're too loose there yet, and you just take it down until you get where you want to be. See, that's about perfect, where you can lift with one finger and drop it with your thumb. And then if you want, we supply a nut, a lock nut, that you can lock that in position so it doesn't unscrew on change your adjustment. And then we'll repeat on the other side. Okay, to install the paracord, we need to make a little slip knot in one end. And on the tray side, we're going to start on the most inside hole and work our way from inside out and then outside in. And then at this point, we put the shrink tube on, and then we move up to the upper portion of the paracord holder. We move to the upper portion, go to the inside most again, and then we're going to draw the table up to about 90 degrees, maybe just a little bit more than you think it should be, and we'll make that cord tight, just like that, and then run it through. We're going to slide the shrink tube over it, and then we make our knot. And then we'll repeat on the other side. All right, so what we want to do is we want to melt the shrink wrap just enough so you can slide the cords through it. So just like that. That ought to do it, just like that. Then we repeat on the other side. All right, now we're on to the installation process. So the first thing you need to do is you need to take off the plastic panel on the back door. There's two pieces, and if you have an installation tool like this, which is about $4 at your local O'Reilly's or Napa store, it makes the process a little bit easier. And essentially what you want to do is you want to just pop in that little corner up there. And then once you get the edge out, you can just snap it out. Easy as that. And then for the bigger panel, again, you just find an edge and pop your tool under it. And out it comes. Now we have to move on to putting some holes in these. So first we have the little panel, which you need to put 2 holes in. Jeep very nicely marked those areas specifically where we need to go. So you want to use your 1/2-inch drill and drill those out. Now with the, if you don't have a 13mm drill like Jeep recommends, because no one has a 13mm drill like Jeep recommends, what you want to do is you use a 1/2-inch drill, which is almost as big, but you want to wobble it just a little bit. And the point is you just need to make it wide enough that you can slip the spacer in, which I'll show you in a little bit. So on the big panel, you'll also note that Jeep has marked a little divot right here and also right here for drilling. And you'll drill that with your 1/2 inch or your 13mm drill as well. All right, so now we'll put the spacers in. When we have the production models, these will actually be color coded, so you can tell these from the bottom ones because they're different lengths. So you just take that and line that up, just like that, and just like that. Okay, now we're putting the bottom spacers in. Actually, these slide in a lot easier. And then also that one. So at this point, we'll actually take one of our bolts and we'll make sure everything's lined up appropriately, because you don't want to be a hair off when you're screwing your rack on. All right, we're all lined up and we're ready to put the rack on. All right, we're ready to put the rack on now. So what you want to do is you want to clamp it and put it in the open position. I would highly recommend that you have an assistant help you with this, but since I don't have one today, I'm doing it on my own. So you can use me. At this point, when you get a couple screws threaded, you can take that in a little bit. You don't want to tighten it all the way down because you might want to move it a little bit side to side yet. Now, lower bolts are a little bit trickier in respect of you gotta get that rack lined up, select it into place. There we go. Just like that. Okay. Now that we have all the bolts in place and we have the rack kind of roughly where we want it to be, we can go ahead and start tightening things down. You're going to want to tighten the upper ones first. And then the bottom ones require a little bit of extra attention because in order to keep the grid stable and solid, we need to put in a little ridge. So you have to kind of work around that when you're putting in the nut or the bolt. As we're tightening up the lower bolt, you're going to take it to a point where the ridge is going to interfere with you. So what you'll need to do at that point is switch to a wrench. Switch to a wrench and tighten it that way. These are long bolts. And then we're going to move around to this one. Ready? And again, we take this to the ridge where we can't go any further. And then we're going to use our little ratchet wrench to get the final tightening in. There we go. The installation is all finished. Your finished product should look like this. You can easily unclamp it, fold it down into a table to carry your tools or to hold your picnic lunch, and minimal drilling, pretty easy installation, pretty easy assembly. Thank you for buying Springtail products. We appreciate your business.